All right, so what does a literary analysis consist of? So, we always want, as with most of our essays, an arguable thesis, right? We always want to have a clear idea that we're arguing for or against when we write the paper. We also, in the case of literary analysis in particular, want to pay careful attention to the language of the text. So, what makes a literary analysis literary is that we're paying attention to that language, right? We're looking at a work of literature which is distinctive because it has paid attention to language itself, right? That's what a poem is, or a story is. A good poem or story has complex use of language in it, right? To some kind of artistic effect, right? So we want to look at the patterns and the themes. What are the themes of the story or poem that you're reading? In the case of A Road Not Traveled, one of the patterns we can look at the rhyme scheme, right? We can look at the specific words chosen, the specific story being told, and we can think about what are the themes of the poem. The most prominent theme, of course, is choices for a road not taken. There's the consideration of making this choice between one road and the other road, and the consequences and the regrets, or the the memories, right? We want also to provide our own interpretation, a clear interpretation of what we read. So Miller provides an interpretation that that he thinks is right. His interpretation goes against the grain of other people's interpretations. Like he says, many people interpret the poem as very individualistic, as something supporting going your own way, not going the way of conformity, but going the way of individuality. The road less traveled, right? Being the road that the crowd isn't going down. But Miller thinks that that interpretation is wrong, or maybe not wrong, but incomplete. He thinks that interpretation needs to account for some of the other things that are going on more subtly in the poem, right? Repres- he also references Robert Frost's own autobiography and or rather autobiographical details, and cites those details as giving us this other interpretation, supporting the interpretation that he wants to make of the poem, right? So what this interpretation is sort of what you are adding, right? Because the poem already exists for people to read. What are you adding? You're adding your own interpretation of it, right? And then we want to follow MLA style. So in general, writing about literature is done in MLA style. That's the chosen style of that profession.